What's up, everybody? Welcome back to FNG Academy. Buck here, former Green Beret, here to help you guys get selected. Alright guys, in this video we're going to talk about my tactical belt. My belt that I used, the belt that I liked when I was in group, and also I used the same belt as a police officer. So technically it wasn't authorized in the police department, but I wanted to use the kit that I knew worked for me, and I wanted to make as little changes as possible going from the military to the police department. So it was just as natural of a transition. And also I've used some really good equipment, and I didn't want to downgrade my equipment just because it looks better. For example, leather, a lot of police officers prefer leather. They think that the leather looks good. I wasn't going to do that, but luckily for me, no one gave me a hard time about it besides the occasional comment like, "Are you allowed to wear that?" Which I would abruptly ignore and wear it anyway because I'm going to wear the kit that works best for me. So I just want to do a quick video going over which belt I used, why I bought it, and all that stuff. But first, this video is sponsored by the FNG Academy. How's that? We're gonna do some of our own sponsorship segments. So I needed to take a second to tell you guys that we're gonna start doing giveaways for the FNG Academy once a month. So please go sign up your emails over at the fngacademystore.com because the email lists are the ones that are going to get picked, and then you'll find out who wins through the email list. So every month we're gonna do a giveaway. Every single month. This first one is going to start on the 8th of January, and it's going to be for the last FNG Academy knife. So the winner will be picked for the FNG Academy knife on January 8th from the email list. So make sure you guys are all signed up for the email list so you don't miss out on all the sweet giveaways that we got coming out. After that, we're going to do the next month drop is going to be one of these things. I'm not sure which order we do, but we have the signed Eagles and Angels hat we're going to give away. We have another optic from Crimson Trace that we're going to give away. We have a plate carrier. If you guys didn't see it, I did a review on this, the Prime plate carrier. I think this thing is sick in all black. That is also going to be one of the giveaways. So do not miss out on all this stuff. You will win at some point, probably. I can't say that for sure, but the chances of you winning are pretty damn good because we're going to do like I said, we're going to do a giveaway every single month. So go sign up your emails and enjoy the free stuff that is going to be coming your way. As a thank you from us, we're going to do signed books. We'll do shirts, hats, all kinds of stuff. We have the new cast and tab gear out and ready to go. So go sign up your emails. All right, guys. So let's talk about the belt that I used. So at the time of looking for a belt, I knew that I wanted something with an inner belt, but I also wanted to have MOLLE attachments on the outside. When I was going through the police academy, I had to switch to the leather, and I hated it because we would try to put all the military guys were trying to put, Velcro on the insides and have the inner lined belts like we did in the military. But the leather straps would wrap all the way around the belt, which would reduce your amount of contact from your Velcro for your hook and, was it what they used to call it? Because they couldn't call it Velcro, as trademarked. It was like hook and loop in airborne school, whatever the fuck it's called. So it would reduce the amount of contact, and then you just wouldn't get a good stick, and your belt is like falling off, or you have to use belt clips. And those belt clips are a giant pain in the ass. Especially if you got to go to the bathroom and then you got to get them all back on. They suck. I hated belt clips. The best way to do it is to just stick with the way the military does it and have an inner line belt. The problem is a lot of these companies go really cheap on that inner belt. It's usually too thin. The Velcro wears down and it ends up just sucking. So the belt that I chose was the Ronin Tactical Belt. So here's my setup. This is just my shooter setup. So obviously I've taken all my police gear off, which my handcuffs, my mace pouches, But we could talk about the pouches that I chose to use because I use the same ones for everything. So I use these taco pouches that you see my mag in. I use that taco pouch for everything. I used it for mace. I used it for my magazines. What else I have? I had the taco. They make one for the cuffs. So I also had the taco for cuffs. I wanted it all to look streamlined and look presentable as possible. Since I'm going a cloth belt, it doesn't look as good as leather. So I try to keep all my pouches from Taco. So I'll put a link down below for all the pouches that I used, just so it was like uniform and it looked nice, and that would keep people off my back as much as possible. But in the military in Afghanistan and stuff, we're using the same kind of belts. Now the positive thing to this belt is the thick inner belt, and the Velcro. I've used this thing for years, taking it off daily as a police officer, sometimes multiple times a day if you got to go to the bathroom. And this Velcro is still hanging perfectly strong. I didn't need any belt clips with it. It worked like a charm. So I love this belt. I will say, at the time that I purchased the Ronin belt from Two Lambs Company, Two is a former Green Beret, I reached out and said, hey man, do you guys, it's an expensive belt. I was like, hey man, do you guys have any military discount, or, hook a brother up, 2 10th group guys, maybe give him a little discount. I was a cop, not making very good money. And I got a response that said, no, we don't do discounts. So hopefully he's changed that by now. Now, especially now, we run a company, obviously former, military, former law enforcement. We give discounts for that. So that's something that, I don't know, you think that's just kind of a given with prior military, that they start a company, you give military and law enforcement discounts to show your appreciation. So whatever, hopefully they do that now too. Hopefully you're giving out discounts, because it felt like shit, man. I wasn't making very much money, and this is an expensive belt, and I wanted it. And there wasn't very many options out there. And this is the reason I went with it anyway and spent the big money, was because at the time, Two's one of the first people that came out with these belts that had the MOLLE on the outside of the belt. So a lot of the belts, they just weren't putting the MOLLE attachments on the outside. So again, you have to loop it around the whole belt, and then you lose contact with your Velcro. But if you go this route, and an example of that is the Safariland. So because the holster goes around the belt, you lose these points of contact with the Velcro, and which just for the holster, totally fine, no big deal, right? But once you start doing that with all your pouches, you lose a lot of contact, and then it's really gonna make your belt questionable. And when you're getting in foot chases, when you're in combat, the last thing you need is your kit slouching down or not being where you want it. Obviously, if we were in combat, this thing would have, or if I was a police officer, but combat, your loadout's gonna change, right? So if you got that guap, you want to spend that money, you could have multiple belt setups depending on what you're trying to use it for. So do you want one that has, more 5.56, or maybe you're running a SCAR heavy that day, or a different weapon system, and you want to have one with a full loadout of a different ammunition type, one with dump pouches or more medical kits. I like to keep my stuff as streamlined as possible. And when I was in Afghanistan, so I didn't put med kits on my belt. I put the med kits flat up behind my plate carrier with a pull tab at the bottom, so I could rip them out from the bottom. I wanted as little things as possible on my kit, because when you go and jump in the vehicle, on my belt, you go and jump in the vehicle and it's pressing up against your lower back, and you have, hours to be in that vehicle, it's gonna suck. So typically I'll have a dump pouch that's nice and compact, and then once we're jumping out of the vehicle, you could open it up to dump your mags. You don't want to give the enemy any of your mags, so you always want to have a good dump pouch on there to dump your empty mags. I run the Safariland. Obviously it's set up for a light and a red dot. In the military, I didn't run red dots on my pistol, and here's why. Obviously, I love red dots. They're phenomenal, and I love them like crazy now. But you have to remember that military guys, their main weapon system, it's the rifle. It's not a pistol. This is a secondary weapon system for me. So we always just had stock Glocks. We didn't do any upgrading to them. We didn't change out a bunch of parts. It wasn't until I went to the police department and that became my primary weapon system that I got really, really hyper focused on having my pistol exactly the way I wanted it. So that's when I started going to red dot and all that, upgraded trigger and things like that. I also made some mistakes, so be careful with that. I had a video, I think there's still a video, I'll have to link it, breaking down my pistol setup as a cop. Extended magwells I think are phenomenal. I love them. Always have an extended magwell. If you don't care what it looks like, go big. Competition magwell, who gives a shit? It looks goofy. There's almost no downside to having a big flared out magwell, and all the upside of a quick mag change to me is fire. I love that shit. So I forget which one I had, but it was competition style. So the thing was, it was huge and it's kind of goofy looking, but man, my mag change, I could be off and it's going to slide it right in there. Like I did it perfectly every single time. So there was mistakes that I made though. And again, I'll go through Glock mistakes and things you should not change out. And one of them was the guide rod. I went with that Taran Tactical guide rod and it was fine when I'm doing two-handed, shooting. But then when I would do support single hand, you can't get that locked in, that locked in position of your firearm. So there is going to be some play when you're single hand, unless you just have a monster grip. So I found that the recoil of that guide rod wasn't strong enough to always snap it back into full battery. So it was getting shy. I forget what it's called, but when you have a shy, recoil of your slide, it doesn't go all the way into battery. It's not going to fire. So I was having to, slap rack drills on my single hand shoots. Anyway, going down a rabbit hole. I'll do another video for Glocks. But one thing I do want to point out that never changed is you'll see that I have one canted. So this, I think the Taco sells this one too. But this canted mag for your first mag, there's something super quick about having that 45 offset. To me, it just always fit the angle of my wrist when I was going to do my mag swipe. So when I pulled it, it was just faster. Instead of having it straight up and then you're kind of grabbing the top and pulling it out, just having that angle, it's like you're fighting. It's like you're just completing a circle. So you're going down, you're taking it out, boom, complete that circle right into your mag change. So I always do an angled mag for my first pull, and my mag changes were pretty dang fast. So I highly recommend you guys trying that out. Unfortunately, it is kind of hard to find super good angled mag holders. This one works pretty good. I'll put the links for that one down below too. But again, because this one clips around the belt like that, so it's got this clip. Here's another issue with this one that I did not anticipate. Sorry, this video is going to be long, but I did not anticipate. When I sat in my vehicle, so the bottom of this, and I'll try to get a close-up of it. So the bottom of that, you'll see has a button. And that button is how you push that button and then it opens up the clip. Well, when I would sit in my vehicle, that button would push on my groin or on the top of my leg and it would actually open up the clip just like that. See that? So just sitting down was enough pressure to open that clip. That's no bueno. So what I did was I had to take two zip ties, and then through the bottom where there's a little hole where that button is, I put the zip ties and zipped it down so that button could no longer be pushed to the side and compressed. Because ideally, the design is it pops to the side and then locks it in place. The problem is when you sit down, it's so easy. It just pops over and then up and then disconnects it. So just know that there's not a lot of great options for the angled offset because these are like competition style magazine holders. So they're really not, the ones that I was finding, they weren't made for running and gunning as a, in combat and as a police officer, running around all the time, getting in fights and things like that. So this one is a pretty good option. Just make sure you zip tie that bottom, because when you sit down on it, it will pop this open. But all right, guys, so that's it. That's kind of, this is just my bare, going to the range setup. I have two totally different setups for combat. One will have a dump pouch attached to it. It'll have a med kit attached to it. Probably a seatbelt cutter hidden in there. And then law enforcement, obviously I'll have my two sets of cuffs. I'll have another taco pouch for mace. I didn't carry a baton. That thing's way too fucking heavy. That was, no, I'm not doing the baton. I had it in my bag if I needed it. But no, wouldn't do the baton. And that's pretty much it. There are some cheaper options for this belt outside of Ronin now. I think one's like a cross safety something. I forget what it's called. But it's like $40 cheaper, I'm pretty sure. And I think they might give a military discount. So if I was you, I would go with something like this. It has the MOLLE on the outside to attach all your equipment. And you guys got to try things out, man. Like, it could be the coolest looking piece of gear and everyone loves it. The reviews are great. But you don't know if those reviews are coming from guys that do paintball, guys that are in combat, guys that are police officers or girls. You don't know where those reviews are coming from or who's reviewing that kit. So it's important that the kit works for your tactical application. And I'm telling you, every time I go do a different job, it's going to change up what I want on my kit, where I want it on my kit. Am I doing helo? Are we doing helo infills? Are we doing climbing? So I could have a rope. At some points we had ropes with carabiners. What are the big carabiners? I forget what they're called. But mountaineering stuff. Sometimes we had a rope with mountaineering stuff so we could hook it to each other and pull somebody if they went down from gunshot wound or they got injured, rolled their ankle. We could hook it to the back of their kit and pull them out. We could hook them all together and lower each other down out of windows. So your kit completely depends on your mission. It depends on what you're doing day in and day out. So just want to give you a quick rundown on my belt, what I wore, and how I wore it, and why I purchased the ones I did. So hope that helps. This is going to be a long-ass video, but there you go. All right. Talk to you guys next time.